SUVs, once the preserve of mainstream manufacturers, they are slowly but surely taking over the entire new car market. You can get big ones, small ones, cheap ones, luxurious ones, and as the name suggests, you can get sporty ones too. But there were a few makers that we thought would never make an SUV. Rolls-Royce, no, they've got one. Bentley, tick. Lamborghini, even they have got an SUV. But Aston Martin, no. Surely not. It seems there's no escape from SUVs, not even for a small volume British sports car maker like Aston Martin. We never thought we'd see the day, but now the DBX is here, all 5 metres, 542 brake horsepower and 160,000 pounds of it. Instantly recognisable as an Aston Martin, the car's designers have done a similar job to their Porsche peers when the first generation Cayenne launched at the turn of the century. That's to say, the DBX shares a similar grille and front end design to other models in the Aston range, like the Vantage and the DB11. In fact, the DBX looks almost exactly as you'd expect an Aston Martin SUV to look. Its raised ride height and huge wheels give it an imposing stance, while some of the visual weight has been taken out the back end thanks to the sloping roofline. Slim LED taillights complete the look at the rear. In here, you obviously sit much higher than you do in any other Aston Martin, so you get a nice commanding view of the road. The only issue I've found is that that rear window is pretty small and there's no rear wiper, so it's a bit frustrating on wet or mucky days. But that's not a problem today because the sun is shining, thank God. Anyway, if you've never driven an Aston Martin before, you might spend a good 30 seconds looking for the gear selector, but you'll find them up here, just like in any other Aston Martin, above the infotainment screen. Not the easiest to use, but I'm sure you'll get used to it after some time. The other thing you might notice is a smattering of Mercedes buttons and switches, including the indicator stalk up here and the trackpad down here that you use to operate this 10.25-inch infotainment screen. Speaking of which, that too is a Merc part, although it's not one of their latest MBUX setups. Okay, you get Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto I'm afraid, but the biggest frustration is that it's not touch operated, so you have to operate it using the trackpad that we just mentioned. Okay, so it's not so blindingly Mercedes that Aston hasn't fitted it with its own fonts, so you do still get a feeling that you're sitting in something a little bit special. Elsewhere, there's a set of fully digital instruments, leather absolutely everywhere, and a beautiful pair of aluminium shift paddles. Style-wise, there's quite a lot going on in here. It won't be to everyone's taste, but on the whole, quality is very good. We're not talking about Bentley or Rolls-Royce levels of craftsmanship, but on the whole, we're pretty happy, especially considering that there were a few issues with early DBXs. Now, we talked about the indicator stalk and some of the buttons on the center console being lifted from the Merc parts bin, but those aren't the only things. More on that a little bit later. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the Carbuyer YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. So back to Aston's tie-up with Mercedes. The love affair continues under the bonnet, where you'll find a Mercedes-AMG Source 4-litre twin-turbo V8 packing some serious performance. There's 542 brake horsepower on tap, and it's never more than a flex of the foot away. Mash the pedal and this thing flies. All that power and not inconsiderable curb weight means the Aston Martin DBX is quite thirsty. Official figures stand at just 19.8 mpg with CO2 emissions of 323 grams per kilometre. Insurance and servicing costs will be high too, but if you're spending north of £160,000 on a family SUV, some things are a given. The V8 is the only engine option available at the moment, but Aston Martin has recently announced plans to electrify 90% of its range by 2030. And as such, a huge seller like the DBX is unlikely to be exempt from that overhaul. A plug-in hybrid is expected first and foremost, before fully electric Astons arrive from 2025. Now, there'll be a number of you sat there wondering who a car like this is even aimed at, and I'll be honest, I was a bit sceptical to begin with. I mean, who in their right mind needs a practical family SUV with 500 odd horsepower and a thumping great V8? I mean, especially one that costs as much as this. If you've got the funds, surely you buy a practical family car as well as a DB11 or a Vantage. But to think like that would be to completely miss the point. This, at least in theory, is a car that does it all. You've got space for the kids and the dog, and then when you're on your own, like I am, you can dial things up a bit and have some fun. The first thing you notice from the turn of the key, or in the Aston's case, the prod of the starter button, is that constant rumble from the V8 engine, and it's not in a bad way. Even when you're pootling around town, it's just a constant presence. It's there in the background. Now, don't get me wrong, I am the biggest electric car advocate, but there's something about an old school V8 that we will miss when it's gone. Now, as we touched on earlier, it feels as if all of that power is instantly available. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 4.5 seconds, and top speed is 181 miles an hour. But it's how effective the turbos are that means, so long as you're in the right gear, you're never far away from just launching yourself towards the horizon. Few cars have so much theatre just driving in a straight line. But what surprises most is how this thing goes around corners. I mean, you would never have expected Aston to have half-baked their latest model, but God, it's clear, instantly clear, how much time and expertise the engineers have put into making this thing drive just right. In fact, it feels more like a fast estate car than it does an SUV, the triple chamber air suspension helping to smooth out lumps and bumps, and apart from a slight tendency to tramline at lower speeds on the 22-inch alloy wheels, it's actually a pretty good cruiser. The clever electronic anti-roll system stops it slopping too much from side to side through faster changes of direction. The 9-speed gearbox is pretty slick and the steering is just a delight. It's pretty quick and it's on the heavy side, but there's loads of feel so you know exactly what the car is doing and where it's pointing. There are 6 drive modes, even there's an individual setting, so you can tailor the experience exactly as you want it. Now, in theory, and I'm not going to test this too extensively today, you can take your DBX off-road. You can raise the suspension by up to 45 millimeters, allowing you to wade through water up to half a meter deep. I never knew an SUV could feel like this. Aston likes to keep things simple when it comes to choosing your new DBX. When we say simple, we mean there's only one spec, but the options list is varied with countless colours and interior trim choices. So if you're serious about buying a DBX, or even if you're not, you could do a lot worse than wasting an afternoon playing on the configurator and speccing your dream car. As standard, the DBX comes with a panoramic roof, full grain heated leather throughout, 3-zone climate control, 64 colour ambient lighting and double glazed side glass. Of course, there's the usual powered tailgate, LED headlights and a 360-degree parking camera, as well as an 800-watt 14-speaker stereo controlled via that Mercedes-poached 10.25-inch infotainment display. Options include a huge range of paint finishes, including a bespoke Q palette if price is not a problem. There are a handful of 22-inch wheel choices, plus gloss black or carbon finishes for near enough every bit of trim you can think of. While our car is perhaps a little conservative in its styling, if bold is better to your eyes, Aston Martin will oblige. We doubt that many DBX owners are going to be complaining about space in the back here because it's actually a fairly practical SUV. I'm just over 6 foot tall, I've got loads of knee room, and even with this car's panoramic sunroof, loads of headroom as well. Now, the chairs themselves, they're super comfortable and really plush and soft, and actually, I would argue, more comfortable than the ones in the front. Now, talking about practical touches, you've got some ISOFIX points on both of the outer chairs, you've got an armrest in the middle with some cup holders. There is a transmission tunnel, but it's quite low and there's enough space either side for middle seat occupants to put their feet. Other practical touches, you get these pockets on the back of the seats, some USB ports in the middle, and as we mentioned before, triple zone climate control, so you can adjust the temperature and your heated seat in the back. The boot measures a total of 632 litres with the seats up, which is 32 litres more than the Porsche Cayenne Coupe, and just up on the Lamborghini Urus's 616 litre boot. In reality, the sloping roofline means it's not as versatile as more mainstream SUVs like the BMW X5 or Mercedes GLS, but family buyers should have no trouble getting all their luggage in the back. The rear seats can split and fold flat, and Aston Martin hasn't stopped there. Owners can choose from a list of accessories including a pet pack with a portable washer to clean the dog after a stroll around the park. Should you wish to, the DBX will tow up to 2,700 kilos. There are a few finer ways to transport your caravan or horse box. Anyway, that's enough of the practicalities. If you're considering an Aston Martin DBX, what are the deal makers and the deal breakers? The way the DBX drives is nothing short of witchcraft. The electronic trickery flatters the driver, but is a comfortable cruiser too. Yes, it's expensive, but you almost get everything you can think of as standard, from the panoramic roof to the luxurious leather-lined interior. This really is an Aston that does it all. There's enough space in the back and boot for everything a family can throw at it. There's only one engine option and it's thirsty. With no plug-in hybrid or fully electric version due for some time, you'll need deep pockets and a total disregard for the environment to run one. The Mercedes system has sat-nav, DAB radio and Apple CarPlay, but it's not touch operated, which makes it fiddly to use. Aston Martin doesn't do things by halves, but even so, the way this DBX handles, the way it performs, is nothing short of astounding. It feels more like a fast estate car than it does a 2.2 tonne SUV. Okay, it doesn't feel like Aston Martin has done very much to future-proof its new big seller by fitting it with a huge V8 and four-wheel drive, but hopefully with plug-in hybrid models and electric versions on the way later down the line, let's not write it off just yet. Okay, a Lamborghini is more dramatic, a Bentley more luxurious, and a Porsche Cayenne just cheaper and easier to live with. But if you want an SUV that can do it all, an Aston Martin that can do it all apart from return more than 20 miles per gallon, and you want something that is the finest handling car in its class, then this new Aston Martin DBX is the performance SUV for you. If you enjoyed this review, then why not watch our Lamborghini Urus video or our luxury cars playlist. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and as ever, thank you for watching.